So I needed to make this video. So, crucially, I think it's important. There really isn't very much hope anymore when it comes to my father's money and what happened to his money, who stole his money, where did the money get spent, who took possession of his house, who has the power of attorney over him, because it was all hidden and lied to me. I was the absolute kid that was supposed to be aware about what was going on. Me and Frankie were, because my mother had told me that she had divorced my father, but I don't even know if that divorce was ever finalized. And the reason I think it's important for me to talk about is because, when I was 16 years old, I was abandoned by my mother because she went to go live with her boyfriend. And she just, I don't know how is it, but I believe my probation officer was in on it. I believe there were for sure. How could you leave a kid that was on probation? Because probation, when you're on probation and you're 16 and you're a teenager, it's worse probation than it is when you're an adult, because you have to check in once a week, twice a week, and it's very strict. And I was living by myself for a very long time. And the reason I say this is because I felt that my mother was very under control over this guy, Lucio. Now, I don't know, I'm beginning to think that I don't know if this guy was a biological father of Marco. I don't think he is, because he looks bigger and taller than him. And he should, his skin complexion isn't the same. So I don't think that's his biological father. This is how the level of control that I always talked about in the very beginning. So I talk about this because I don't know. The reason I say this is because the people that are behind stealing my dad's money and doing this was the people that were working, the psychologists or these lawyers, the people that were feeding the money to my mother's twins. I don't know. Let me tell you this right now, they had no involvement in my dad's life. They should have never had any involvement because they were never there. It was just my mother. I believe that my mother's twins, to my knowledge, I had no idea of awareness of it, but when I'm thinking back to what any type of behavior, what was going on, I believe that it was somewhere when I was about 18 years old that there's these identical twins that showed up, these triplets. And I think it's important for me to talk about, because you're talking $175,000 and my dad dies in a nursing home, and these people just stole everything he had ever fucking did, and you don't even know who he is. And that would entirely be the blame of my Lupe, my mother's aunt, my mother's sister, and her triplets. My father did not like any of that family other than Beto. He was the only one that he communicated with. But he was only going over there once he was in a nursing home, but that was it. As far as it goes with Lupe, they didn't get along or any of the situation, and Lupe was very vengeful to go after my dad's money and take control over the house because she knows that if she can control my mother, she can control me and say what goes on with my dad's finances and real estate. So, this is over 20 years ago, whoever was involved in this. But this is a lot of money that's being stolen. I can tell you this, my father, who I was very close to going to a nursing home, before he was going to a nursing home, he was ballistic for someone to steal his money and take his money like that. It is stolen money. His entire finances, his wishes were to go to me, Frankie, and Julian only. But I honestly, and I had said this to him before, that I just believe that 50% goes to my mother regardless, even because he was married to my mother, but he always referenced my mother as a bitch for many years, and he used to always say this. And he'd always tell me things like, so, "I'm sorry, son, for giving you a bad mother." He goes, "I don't want to leave you out in the streets. I don't want to leave you out in the streets." And he was, my entire life, he was always saying that. Especially when he was now in a nursing home. But I don't know who it is. The reason is because I know that there's lawyers involved in this. I don't know what lawyers and who else did this, but there's just a team of people that they knew did everything they could to put the blame on my mother's twins because it's an immediate family situation. And they look exactly like my mother, but they were never there. So when you get them to steal the money, and you get them to lie, and you get them to do everything, then the blame then gets targeted toward them, but it's someone else doing the finances. Because they want a house, and they want a place to live, and they want to also be caring too, but they were never a part of my mother's life. Lupe was the number one person to take me out of that family. That's without, from the very beginning, from top to bottom. That person always, and my dad never liked. She knew about Frankie being raped when I was about 10 years old, 11 years old. She knew about it and never told my mother and played my mother stupid because she felt she needed to say sorry about not telling you about that guy raping your son. But I'm going to control your finances and control your decisions. So I think it's important for me to talk about. Sounds like somebody's. And I think it's important for me to talk about these circumstances because I don't know what lawyers, what psychologists. There's a team of people that are after my dad's money and real estate money to make sure that I not only don't find any more answers from my mother's twins, but for my entire family, because they know that any rightful money that is supposed to should have gone to me, my brothers, me, Frankie, and Julian, or to find out what happened to this, they don't want anyone to find out because they're responsible for stealing and taking everything. I really truly believe that my mother, her set of twins, were put up to it, just like they're doing right now. Everything that she's doing, that I have been over there, has been horrific. She's been wishing me cancer. She's been scolding me very, very dark. I don't believe I know for a fact, nobody that has God in their life behaves like that. Nobody does. Nobody that truly has God like that in their life, and it's your direct mother's identical triplet, behaves that way. Wishing, my mother would have not wanted her own sister wishing her son rape. I hope you get cancer. I don't care that you get fucked in your ass. I mean, this is what she's doing when I'm over there. And it's not because she's just willing to. It's someone that's telling her what to do and what to say. And that's all they're fucking doing. It is very difficult to have any communication at all because she has these VR glasses, and I'm not sure exactly who she's communicating with on the phone as well. But they're telling her, okay, tell him he's going to die of cancer. Okay, now skull him the devil. Okay, now tell him he doesn't have do this and do this. And that's all they're doing from top to bottom because they know I'm likely to have cancer and pass away over the next decade if something tragic happened to me. So the people that are responsible for stealing my dad's money and now everything, they want to make sure this is all a homosexual behavior. This is all transgender homosexual. They know Marco's gay, Marco and his twin are gay, Julian and his twin are gay, and this is a homosexual vengeance against me. They want to make sure that their homosexuals are the ones that get my dad's money and real estate and any finances, anything just goes to them. And it's a homosexual prejudice against me because I'm straight. I'm the only straight person in the entire family out of all of them. So I want to make this very sure, positively, that it is the psychologists that are stealing my dad's money because they're telling her, my mother was mentally not able to do this, and her twins knew, oh my God, here's all this money, I'm your sister, I'm going to go and take the money because, that's mine, and that's what she's doing. The reason that she's doing that, I know, is also because they're telling her what to do. They're saying, go and steal the money because they know if it ever gets unraveled, I'm going to want to blame it on her, and I know it's not. I know that it is. They're making a decision on themselves, but if you don't have an opportunity to have a job yourself, and you don't have an opportunity to put a roof over your head, what is it likely you're most likely to do if you don't have an education, like my mother? Exactly, that's why you can get the twins, her triplets, to do it for her. So, I'm saying this very direly because whoever's doing this is viciously feminine Marco and my mother's triplets. So whoever it is doing this, I've gotten countless threats. They're showing up at the zoo. They're showing up everywhere I go in reference over the money, and they're doing physical threats because they know the police department won't do anything. So what they're doing is they're recording everything that's going on, listening to all the information that they can get from me and from what they know about my mother's twins. And they're accumulating that information and telling everyone else they can to then swarm me to prevent me from having any rights over this money or house, or the story, at least to the story of what had happened, because they know they did wrong. I promise you this, they did wrong, 100%. There's no doubt about this. They did wrong. They stole that fucking money. My dad would have been furious for any psychologist to have ever shown up and steal his house and his money, because they went against all his wishes. They threw his body in a trash can and said, oh, go die in Fort Worth, Texas, and then that was it. So whoever transferred my father to Fort Worth, Texas many years ago, when he went to it was to prevent me from ever having communication. And I don't know who was responsible exactly for that and the team of people that did that. But since I'm finding out this information 20 years later, all these people are attacking me over my dad's money and his house and what happened to my mother. They have my biological mother is pinned to the fucking ground, and it's her twins that are constantly have been wishing me only death and cancer. It is very disturbing and disgusting because she doesn't have any remorse. Her twin doesn't have any remorse and any logical, practical, common sense to realize what the fuck they're doing to me and what she's telling me. She has no idea what else they're doing to me and outside of the world that I live in. It is, I'm getting death threats on the streets, cancer diagnosis, people wishing me saying horrible things to me, and then they tell my mother to repeat the same things to me in fashion that's reflective to what's happening on the streets, exactly what's happening. They seem to find this very entertaining. They seem to find this very funny, and I can get away with whatever I want. And it is because my mother is very vulnerable. Biological mother is very vulnerable. Her twins are the ones that are feminine this horrifically because they think this is a drama TV show. They think this is a drama situation where I can tell you this, my father would have fucking completely flipped knowing that some fucking total stranger show up and you're claiming and they're identical twins and you take control of his money and house. You did that to him. That was not me. And the psychologists are the ones that are doing this to my mother, my biological mother. But she is not in a mental situation to take care of herself anymore. They're putting the blame as much as they can to the twins because they don't want me to go after the lawyers and the psychologists and the people that are beating these electronic devices because they know I'm going to go after them. That's why they deprive me from my job, any money, resources, any places to live, and that's why they beat the fuck out of me with these electronic devices. They beat the fuck out of me with these electronic devices because I'm so preoccupied not being able to defend myself that I can't think about anything else. And all they're doing is wait until I die of cancer and die. And all they have to do is wait until the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get. I mean, you can't remember things, all these things, get very mixed up, and it gets buried. That's exactly why they're doing this, because I cannot defend myself and defend my father and his real estate and his money and what happened to that. It is the psychologists that are doing this. They are I'm watching my mother when I'm talking to her, and it's my mother's twin. And for fucking 20 years, but one time I've only seen my biological mother, they're getting her fucking twin, her fucking triplet, to get me to call her mother. And I have no idea that this is not my mom. This is her fucking triplet. She was never a part of my life. She wasn't there. So whatever it is that these psychologists are doing, they're putting it on them to make sure that when I die of cancer, or I get a terminal illness, or I die, have a massive heart attack or stroke, that they just don't want it to be blamed. They don't want it to be the psychologists and all these horrific things. It's team efforts. They don't want anybody to know about this. It is very illegal and very morally horrifically about what they're doing. So I need to make this video desperately about what these people are doing. It is really fucking bad. It is really fucking bad. You know, I'm telling you, every time that I walk out of this house, every time I'm rolling down the street in my scooter and crossing the street, there's at least one car trying to hit me and follow me at the intersections, meeting up because they know my GPS location, and they'll try to drive right by me, trying to hit me with their cars because they know my GPS location. When I'm rolling down the street, there's at least 3 or 4 fucking people every fucking time. I swear to God, I'm not lying to you. Coming out of their fucking house, and you see these Mexican people staying out of the house in defense, trying to take control over the finances and power of attorney that's going on with my mother and my father's real estate and his money. So that's how they're increasing the violence and the threats toward me, because they wanted to make sure it goes the way that they want. These are total fucking strangers. Total fucking strangers. So they're make-believing of what their perceptions are about what's going on. And that was me, and that was my father, and that was there. You were not a part of that family. These people were rolling down their fucking... I'm rolling down their fucking street, I swear to God. Every time I go to Target, every time I go down, rolling down the streets to go any designation, they are coming out of their fucking house to make vulgar representations of threat. And that they are aware, and they're going to take control, and they're going to tell me what to do. Otherwise, you know what violence could potentially happen. We already sent a murder attempt after you, and we got away with that. We could do it again if we want to. Now, stay away from his money in the house. We know what's good for Marco and his gays, and Julian and his gays, and your mother. You know, we know her brother's twins better than you do. That's what they're doing. So, but as far as I know, any money will never be retrieved. I'd have to sue, and I'd have to target the people, the psychologists, and the people that are feeding my mother the money, because they're the ones that are doing it. My mother's twins, they want a house to live in. They want a job. Nobody wants to suffer. So that I do understand. That I do understand, that they want to make a living, and understand. This is not me trying to throw into the streets and target them as much as I want to go after the people that are telling her what to do. They have their own sickness, and I think they need to find God. And they don't have any God in them. No mother in the face of this earth that has any God would ever wish to their kid and say, "You're going to get cancer, you're going to get cancer, ha ha ha." I'm literally pointing and doing that to me. Saying some of the most disgusting fucking things to me with no remorse. If you look at her behavior, it is psychotic. It's psychotic. It looks fucking crazy. She cannot, and I think, what I think, in my opinion, also that could possibly be happening, I think they have her in that apartment to watch her behavior as well and what's going on, because the behavior that they're doing is very sick and very crazy, because you're throwing a human body away 20 years ago and you're doing this so you can get money on your own plate, and you are not a part of this family. You're a total stranger. But I think that since whatever the information that wasn't being shared was because they got them to do it, so that the blame can be put on them, because they don't want the psychologists, because they're saying, "Okay, stupid, just do this," and they're manipulating everything. So I think it's important for me to talk about this, and to add more things on top of this. I don't know what they're doing, but they have some sort of electronic device they're shooting. I've talked about this so many times. It's a frequency that shoots, and it makes you forget about what you're thinking and what you're doing. And I'm having a conversation, so that I can't defend myself, I can't protect myself, I can't defend my biological mother and my father that's already deceased, and what had happened, and all the rapes that had happened. It makes it very difficult for me to defend any of that, and that's why they're doing that. And they're literally in sequence. Like, I was sitting at the table, and I know I wasn't forgetting everything, and I was getting foggy minded, and I couldn't think, and I all of a sudden forget something, and I know that I didn't forget anything. I know because they're using these electronic devices, and then they immediately, my mother approaches me and she goes, "See," and she goes like that. And the reason that she does that is to poison me to death, cancer. Remember the devil? Did you see God? Did you see God? Oh, see Jesus, Christ Jesus. And so she's playing this very sick behavior and not understanding about really the harm that she's really doing. It's very dark and evil. And when I'm there, the fact that she's doing that is letting me know that they could shoot me with an electronic device and I can't defend myself, and she can steal what she wants. But they're using her as their bait. It's the psychologists that are doing this not to get caught and get in any kind of trouble. So I say this, crucially important. I'm having a lot of pain in the back of my brain or back of my head and the side of my face, and I don't know if somebody's shooting an electronic device, but I'm assuming that it is. But please charge these people with murder about what they did to me and the suffering that they did. If you can target these people that are setting up these electronic devices and placing them in my environment, they are responsible for my death. It is extraordinarily hard to take care of my health, and I'm trying my best. I can't even tell you, there's no way most people would have been able to take care of themselves as well as I was of nutrition and trying to exercise, by walking so many different places. Please charge these individuals with murder because they're responsible for my death. This was not an accident. They did this on purpose with only of intention of doing harm.